Before long, a standard news report visual language established itself, one that's immediately recognisable to anyone. Me has this report. It starts here, with a lacklustre establishing shot of a significant location. Next, a walkie-talkie preamble from the auteur, pacing steadily towards the lens, punctuating every other sentence with a hand gesture and ignoring all the milling around him like he's gliding through the f***ing Matrix, before coming to a halt and posing a question. What comes next?
Broadcasting from Brisbane, Australia, this is The FOMO Show.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Joe.
And this is a fortnightly podcast where we talk about the exciting ideas changing the world today and what might change the world tomorrow.
We'll help you stay across what's going on so you don't get the fear of missing out.
You can find us at FOMO.show or by searching for The FOMO Show on your platform of choice.
Now, as always, everything in the show's in the show notes. You can find links to stuff we're talking about and timestamps the relevant parts so you can always skip ahead or find stuff later.
Okay, so this episode we have a really, really exciting feature. We're going to be doing a deep dive into the world of robotics. So we're going to be talking about where we've come from, where things are at right now, what some companies are doing, what's on the horizon, and then we'll end it by giving our take on what we think is coming in the future for robotics.
And we've got a bunch of cool news, so we'll start that right now. Oh wait, no we won't. Why is that? Because we have a disclosure.
And we've also got to ask each other what we've been up to.
Oh, of course. Okay, let me do that news thing again. And we got a bunch of cool news, so we got that coming right up.
So what have you been up to in the last couple of weeks, mate?
Most of our listeners probably seen the prices of crypto dropping hectically. So I bought Monero for the first time, actually, and I sold a few of the coins that I wasn't so happy to be owning. So it's pretty cool. It's a nice tax event for next year, so very exciting.
Yeah, offset your gains with some losses.
Beautiful times. Beautiful.
How did it feel buying Monero? Did you feel like a common criminal, or did you feel like a privacy enthusiast?
I felt free and liberal, and I'm still going to declare my transactions though, because that is the thing that I should do. But
of course,
yeah. Anyway, I wouldn't want the government to miss out on some sick gains, right? What else? Oh, I listened to this really cool talk, a few years old, by Frank Abagnale Jr., who they based the movie Catch Me If You Can off with Leonardo DiCaprio. He was talking about the future of cybersecurity, and he was suggesting to make all purchases on credit cards, so that was really cool.
Why was he suggesting that?
Because he was basically saying, look, with a credit card, you're insured to that certain level, so things are great. If somebody steals your details and swipes your card and takes it all around town, that's not on you. But if it's on your debit card, it takes so much longer to trace back, and they've taken money from your account.
I don't know. I still find that, like, I get that that's great, but then, like, credit cards are such a trap, man. You got to be so diligent with them. It's tough.
There was that hour, and I listened to saw an awesome video by Larkin Rose, which is on the power of the people relative to the power of the government. I'll play a brief clip from it, but check it out.
Once upon a time, there were 100 million people. They had different interests, different beliefs, different occupations, but for the most part, they got along pretty well. Then one day, a gang of a few hundred people showed up. Need to zoom in some more to see them. I know they're there somewhere. Zoom in. There they are. And this gang of a few hundred said to the throng of 100 million, from now on, you all have to give us a cut of everything you earn.
This is an accurate graphical comparison between the number of American taxpayers and the number of U.S. congressmen.
And the throng said, gosh, do we have to give you a cut of what we earn? And the gang of a few hundred said, yes, you have to. And the throng said, well, okay, I guess we have to. And one little troublemaker asked, what if we don't? The gang of a few hundred didn't like this and said, if you do not comply, we shall unleash upon you our legions of enforcers. And the throng cried, oh no, please don't. We will comply, we will pay.
This is an accurate graphical comparison between the number of American taxpayers and the total number of IRS employees.
That's such a good video. You linked it in the FOMO chat, I think, or it was another chat that we're a part of.
Another little chat, I think.
Yeah, and mate, it was it's really good. I love Lark Monroe's. If you haven't read or listened to The Most Dangerous Superstition, and I'm pretty sure you can get the audiobook for free because he doesn't believe in copyright. It's well worth a read. Like, definitely, I think one of the most important books in the 21st century.
Wow. Sheesh. Well, that's you indoctrinating all our listeners. But anyway, what have you been up to?
Well, I've been buying Bitcoin in the dip. So, yeah, like just, I don't know, it's good. Like dollar cost averaging with N.B.A, which is what I've been using, it just means that you kind of get the benefit of these kind of falls without actually having to worry about going in and getting things. But I went in and I bought a bit extra. I bought the dip. I mean, I'm just hoping that we go down further. I mean, I'd love to see us hit. I saw one article today. I don't put much stock in these because, like, Joe, every morning in your Feedly, there's like a one prediction for $5,000, one prediction for $50,000. It's just like no one knows what's going on. But some people are saying, well, like it's not unfeasible now that we could drop back down to like 3,000 US, which would just be amazing. So yeah, be great buying opportunity. So I've been doing that. I've actually been getting into the world of automation too, like from a for work, actually, for my legal work.
Yeah.
So there's a company called Joseph, and they do like different automation, like legal automation things. They built like a really cool toolkit, and I'm just starting to work out how we can implement that into our practice. Maybe do things a little bit better, but loving it. Like there's just the crazy powerful things you can do with some of these. I mean, they say it's artificial intelligence toolkits. Really, it's just complex programming, but it's so intuitive. Like the really good flowcharts. If this then that.
That's amazing.
And like a lot of qualifiers and I've forgotten the programming term, but you can essentially choose all of or either or both and all sorts of different qualifiers that make things really powerful.
That looks so cool. I just went on their website. We'll put this link in the show notes. That's so cool.
Yeah. So and they were great, mate. They they really looked after us and stepped us through a lot of what's going on. And so I've just been like waiting for some time to dig into this and started digging into it now. So yeah, it's been really good.
Wow.
And I listened to a couple of great episodes of the What Bitcoin Did podcast as well, and that's Peter McCormick's podcast, and really worth. One of my favorite podcasts. I generally try and listen to most of his episodes just because he's one of the best interviewers out there in the crypto world. He talks to so many interesting people, and he's been doing a number of sections on talking to people who are kind of trying to live a libertarian life, but actually take some real action. Harnessing crypto. And he talked to one group of people, which included Trace Meyer, who's like one of the original Bitcoin OG guys. I think he got Jeff Berwick, who's the dollar vigilante, into Bitcoin way back in like 2011 or something.
Wow.
He's tied up in this. Tyler Lindholm's the main guy. And they've essentially gotten themselves elected in the state of Wyoming in America and have been bringing in all these different acts. He brought in this thing called the Food Freedom Act. And basically what it was... and you got to listen to it, hear him tell it. But he basically, food freedom for him meant just abolishing all the legislation around food in the state. So they just overnight shut down all the regulatory food, like with food safety authorities and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Got rid of all the legislation. Anyway, so some people were saying, from other states are saying, you're gonna like make everyone have diseases and everyone's gonna get sick. And it's been like 5 years, and they've seen a massive boom in food business. Yeah. And and haven't had one food safety incident at all. Like, it's been absolutely amazing. So they're kind of like, it's just really interesting to listen to from a perspective of someone who's like, got into Bitcoin, kind of red-pilled, eventually found their way into Parliament, and are now like trying to make a state as free and open as they possibly can within the current framework. So, very interesting.
So that's in Wyoming, isn't it?
In Wyoming in the States, yeah.
Cool.
So really interesting. And then there was also a great chat with Eric Voorhees as well, who's the CEO of Shapeshift. He's had a bunch of issues recently with actually for a long time with governments, imposing new monetary laws on his businesses and all sorts of stuff. But just if you want someone contend for voluntarism or libertarianism, like minimal government, Peter essentially fires all these really difficult questions at him and he just answers them. And he's like one of the, it's brilliant, like really, really good. OG Bitcoin guy as well. So yeah, like big props to Peter McCormick, what Bitcoin did. And I just, like if you're looking for some interesting podcasts, I think there are a couple that really stood out to me the last couple of weeks.
Fantastic. That sounds dope. Cool.
Joe, is this podcast investment or any other type of advice?
No.
Oh, cool. Okay.
No, we're not saying that you should buy anything at all. We both waste our money on stupid and frivolous things, shares, funds, cryptocurrencies, tax, all kinds of things, some of which we talk about on the show.
Yeah, but if we talk about any kind of product or anything really, it doesn't mean you should buy it or acquire it or whatever. So do your research, never invest more than you can afford to lose, and most importantly, avoid the fear of missing out.
Are you certain you're private and safe online? Check out our new resource at FOMO.show/privacy. It's a great repository of our favorite tools to understand and improve your online security. And
if you're new to cryptocurrency, Bitcoin and blockchain tech, you can check out our Blockchain Basics series, which covers the fundamentals. It'll give you some grounding in what the different technology does. And that starts from episode 2, way back in the FOMO vault, and continues on until episode 8.
Let's jump into the news.
So first bit of news, Dinwiddie, the N.B.A. star that we covered, I think, last episode, the episode before, can't actually sell the shares in his contract, the N.B.A. has told him.
Yeah, he wanted to turn his contract into this digital investment vehicle, but the National Basketball Association, they said, look, you can't use your contract as a digital investment vehicle.
Yeah, so he has a $34.4 million contract, and he sought to tokenize it, and essentially said, look, if I play well enough, I'm going to earn bonuses and I will give you the upside, or some of the upside on those bonuses if you hold the token. But the NBA have essentially said that according to the collective bargaining agreement for all the players, and all the big sports leagues have these agreements, that actually says that no player can assign or otherwise transfer to any third party their right to receive compensation from the team under their uniform player contract.
So it's a breach of contract, but nothing else apart from that.
Yeah. So we won't have tokenization of an NBA contract.
Well, there we go.
Close the loop.
Another little update to another piece. We talked about oil last episode. Now, 200 troops, 4 radars, and 1 Patriot missile system battery is being deployed in Saudi Arabia.
So mission accomplished?
Well, for Raytheon, for sure.
Yeah, if you want some context on that and, to hear our very sarcastic take on the whole situation, you can check out episode 53 where we covered it at around the 36-minute mark.
Yeah, we got a couple of interesting comments on that one, so thank you everyone who enjoyed it.
Next bit of news, the Pirate Bay, everyone's favourite pirating site, has hauled in over $1 million in Bitcoin donations.
So they started accepting Bitcoin donations in May 2013, and Trust Nodes, they counted up the achievement by tracing the funds from the different publicly identifiable wallets that they owned. And in total, they're estimating that the Pirate Bay received a total of 134 Bitcoins with donations spread around several wallets. And that's since 2013. So today's value, $8,000 a Bitcoin, that's worth a little over $1 million.
So if I donate to the Pirate Bay then, and then I, download one of something from their site, does that mean I'm a paying customer?
It means you're supporting a charitable entity, I think. That's not legal advice. I have no idea.
So next bit of news, this one is very close to our heart. No, it's not really. It's just geographically in the context of the world, it's kind of close. The Australian Capital Territory, which funnily enough is where most of Australia's federal government employees live, have become the first state to legalize personal cannabis use.
Yeah, so they've legalized they're going to legalize the possession, use, and cultivation of small amounts of cannabis. So up to 50 grams per person and a maximum of 4 plants per household. So I have no idea what that would do to somebody, but I'm sure that will mean very happy, sleepy, hungry citizens.
Well, not only citizens, but government employees. I mean, that's kind of the funny part about all this is, Australia, we for the longest time have had a war on drugs like in the US, and there's been very strict drug laws, and that's all, of course, come from Canberra, which is really the only city in this state. So it's very interesting that the first state to legalise the use of recreational drugs is the state that's been responsible for pushing the agenda of banning the drugs in the rest of the country.
So it looks like it's an end to prohibition, at least the start of the end to prohibition in Australia. And hopefully, I reckon hopefully for people in Australia, that will mean it's healthier for the people who use that substance. And hopefully it also means more tax revenue for the government because they could maybe make something of that if they, bring all these kinds of... They'll probably need some kind of a retail law for, being able to sell it and dispense it.
Oh, of course. I mean, there'll have to be license fees and, different ways to tax it. So, yeah. I mean, the interesting part is, it's still in conflict with Commonwealth law. So it's happening in the city where all the Commonwealth laws are made, but it's at the state level. So...
And Commonwealth, is that like the equivalent of federal law in America?
Yeah, right. It's like federal law in America. So the Canberra is the federal law city. There's not really much else that goes on there except people making federal laws, but it is a territory, like a state in its own right. So it has its own little parliament that can make laws at the state level for the things that states make laws for. So yeah, it's just, I mean, so basically they've legalized it in a place where there's a whole bunch of federal police. Federal police have their headquarters. There's, a whole bunch of Commonwealth employees. And at Commonwealth law, it'll still be prohibited and remain a federal crime. And, so anyone in the state who is found with cannabis can still be prosecuted and face potential jail time under the federal law. So it's just bizarre. The whole thing is very bizarre. But there's money to be made, Joe.
That's absolutely right. Now, Australia has a number of medical companies who produce cannabis under license, and generally we sort of use it for either medical reasons or we export it to Canada and America, I believe. I'm not sure. So that's sort of the only industry that's there at the moment, as far as I'm aware. But sadly, there are no index funds for marijuana-related firms, and an index fund is just basically gives you a little slice of all of the firms in the industry, as opposed to having to pick a winner. You sort of balance yourself across the top ones. Yeah,
it's like you have a plant and then you get a leaf of each part of the plant. And, if parts of the plant happen to get cut off and packaged and sold to someone, then you...
Why are you talking about plants and leaves?
No reason, Joe. Next bit of news, the Bill Gates-backed carbon capture plant does the work of around about 40 million trees.
So in Squamish, British Columbia, there's a company that wants to stop climate change by sucking carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. It's called carbon engineering, and it uses a combination of giant fans and complex chemical processes to remove carbon dioxide from the air in a procedure known as direct air capture.
Now, direct air capture isn't new, but carbon engineering says its technology has advanced enough for it to finally make financial sense. And other people seem to think so too. So the company's backed by Bill Gates, but also by all giants like Chevron, BHP and Occidental. And these partnerships will bring carbon engineering's tech to market by using the captured carbon to make synthetic fuels and help extract more oil from the ground.
So there was a video on YouTube, and you can check it out. It's really, really fascinating stuff. To think that one plant does the work of 40 million trees is pretty bold. So what they're suggesting is that they could actually take out, with a number of these facilities, you could actually take the world back to the pre-industrial era levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And then if the temperature changes...
We'll know.
We'll know if it was the carbon dioxide or whether maybe it's the fact that we're Anyway, so one of the top comments here said, look, damn, even the trees are losing their jobs to technology.
That's one of YouTube comments' finest right there. That's really good.
So Boston Dynamics' Spot robot is going on sale.
Yeah, so it's a nimble dog-like robot called Spot that Boston Dynamics have developed. And Boston Dynamics are like one of the biggest robotic companies in the world. They're doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And it's their first commercial product. So they've essentially just kind of testing the market now with actual commercial offering.
Yeah, and you've probably seen videos of Spot. It just sort of walks around and does things. And they've produced an ad highlighting all their specifications. You know, this current iteration can run for 90 minutes off a single battery charge. It can carry up to 14 kilos. It can operate in between minus 20 degrees Celsius to 45 degrees Celsius, and it's built to withstand dusty and wet environments.
Now, we'll link the ad in the show notes, but look, that's like a very reasonable specs, and it's kind of like leading to the question of what commercial applications Spot could actually be used for. Now, they've been working for some time with early adopting companies to explore possible industrial applications, but the practical uses of this stuff do kind of seem a little vague.
Yeah, well, from what I'm hearing, it's kind of cost you about the same amount as a luxury car, but
Right.
I haven't actually seen specific numbers yet.
Yeah, I mean, they're saying that early customers are already testing Spot to monitor construction sites, provide remote inspection at gas, oil, and power installations, and in public safety, whatever that means. So, but look, that actually is like looking at that, you can kind of think, oh wow, like yeah, you can fully see like a company, instead of hiring, 3, 4, 5 employees to kind of circulate the outside boundary of an installation at night. You just have a few of these robots. They don't need, once you've paid for them, you paid for them. They don't need wages. They got night vision. They can run really fast.
They don't need wages.
They don't need wages. And they would be terrifying. Like, imagine trying to break into one of these places and you're met with this like big mechanical dog.
Oh. Wait, isn't it? There's that black and white Black Mirror episode that's about robotic dogs that are hunting people down.
Oh, I don't know if I've seen that one.
I tell you what, let me Google that.
I don't remember it.
It's called Metalhead, and it's a robot nightmare is what they describe it. And it's basically, it follows the plight of this chick who's trying to flee from robotic dogs after the unexplained collapse of human society, and the dogs were actually influenced by Robot Dynamics robots.
Wow, Black Mirror. They're like you watch Black Mirror and you think, this is like pretty horrible, and then you like start to see a lot of the stuff that they've predicted kind of coming true, and then anyway, Boston Dynamics' other big robot called the Atlas has recently received frankly a pretty terrifying parkour skills upgrade.
So Atlas is the company's humanoid robot, and in the past you've probably seen a number of videos on them. Like, they first showed it back in, I think it was years back, and they showed it, being held up by cables, so it couldn't balance properly. And then you could see it roaming without cables and tethering them up. In this, in 2015, it was doing some crazy tricks. But now, in the most spectacular video to date, you can actually see them performing a complex gymnastic routine, which unless you as a listener are a gymnast / yoga expert, I don't think you'd be able to do this. Like, he's doing it is doing like a jump and then going straight into a roll and then standing up, and it's terrifying.
You just got to watch it. I mean, you can almost feel your hackles rising when you're watching it, because it's just like, it's so close to human movement, yet it's so artificial.
So we put the YouTube video in our show notes. From the description from YouTube, they say, look, Atlas uses its whole body, legs, arms, torso, to perform a sequence of dynamic maneuvers that form a gymnastic routine. They created these using new techniques that streamline the process. Optimization algorithms transform high-level descriptions of each maneuver into dynamically feasible reference motions. It's terrifying.
So we thought this was kind of our inspiration to do a feature on robots. So we're going to just look at a couple other things, and then we're going to jump into a bit more of a deeper dive into what's going on in robotics in general.
Quick shout out wherever you're joining us from. Pleasure having you here. Why not drop
into our... Sorry. You go, Joe.
No, you're spot on there, mate.
Why not drop into our Telegram channel and say hello?
FOMO.show/Telegram.
Okay, so this week we've got a cool tool in our cool tool segment, and it's called Swap.Online.
So, yeah, thank you, Pav. Shout out to you for sending in this link. Pav, you are an excellent sender of links. Keep them coming. Much appreciated. They bill themselves as the fastest cross-chain exchange powered by Atomic Swap.
Yeah, so it's like basically a decentralized process where you send one crypto and you get another crypto straight to your wallet. So you have you send a transaction to the address, you specify the wallet you want it to go to, and you exchange it, and it is literally that simple.
And it's a brilliant system because doesn't it use smart contracts or something like the atomic swaps where it just...
I'm pretty sure it does, yeah.
Because you basically select your cryptocurrency and the amount that you want to send. You can click exchange, and then they basically try and match you up with somebody else who wants to exchange the same sort of value with another currency. Then you both make a cryptocurrency deposit, and they're both held in escrow, and then the smart contract just swaps them. So you get access to one, and somebody else gets access to the other. And
I'm not sure if this is... I need to do a bit more research on this, but it could potentially be a way to mix your coins before sending them to another wallet, where you could essentially do a buy one currency with the intention to convert it into another. So let's say you buy Ethereum. You could say, I buy some Ethereum, and then I'm going to send it through via this atomic swap system, get it back in Bitcoin, and send it to my Bitcoin address, and kind of cut off that, because it's a decentralized exchange, cut that trail of transactions because you're moving across different chains, essentially. So I think there may be a use case here for like obfuscating your... Like if you've bought something on an exchange and you want to like send it to a wallet that's not associated with that exchange account, potentially this may be a way to do it.
Yeah, well, atomic swaps are just super dope. This site, Swap.Online, takes Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, Ethereum, and Waves, and you can switch between any of those. So the fees, I don't actually know what their fees are, but I mean, atomic swaps, the technology behind them costs almost nothing. And it's just crazy. You could just switch your Bitcoin for Litecoin or Litecoin for Bitcoin. And it's directly peer-to-peer.
Yeah, which is the key there. No custodians, no one in the middle, peer-to-peer. Awesome.
So, yeah, thanks for that, Pav. Atomic swaps are so cool.
Yeah.
Those and decentralized exchanges are so cool because regardless of what governments say, the code can really sort of do what it wants. Yeah.
And I think it's like as crypto gets more and more adoption and, you start to see Bitcoin become more and more of a kind of like a reserve, I guess, it's going to be so important once things start getting denominated in Bitcoin or whatever else instead of US dollars because, you'll feasibly be able to move in and out of different assets with no involvement from centralized exchanges. So it's great. Love it. Did you want to do this other tool?
Yeah, I want to bring some attention to the Yahoo Crypto Screener. Now, I think we first mentioned this back in episode 18, which is in May 2018, but it's an awesome crypto screener. So it's sort of like, coin market cap, but it has there's just one element that I really like about it. So it shows all the top cryptocurrencies. You can sort them by, market cap, price change, whatever it is, volume in the last 24 hours. But there's one column that is just so unique that I don't see anywhere else, which is the 52-week range. And it essentially shows almost like a bar chart where the minimum on the bar chart is the lowest price that cryptocurrency has been in the last 52 weeks. And the maximum is the largest price it's been at. And then there's like a little blue sort of triangle right above where the price is now. So you can see how high the price of this cryptocurrency is relative to where it's been within the last year.
Wow.
And that's such a good visualization. I just love that. I think that's such a cool little visualization.
Yeah, that's great.
So, yeah.
I'm going to have to use this more.
I actually use that same formula for stocks, except I have to use a spreadsheet for it. So I actually have to import all of my stocks manually. But it's such a cool way of just seeing where the price is relative to, the last year. So, yeah, cool stuff.
That's great.
The Yahoo Crypto Screener, finance.yahoo.com/cryptocurrencies.
Okay, this week in our privacy and security segment, we wanted to cover the Brave browser.
So you can find it at fomo.show/Brave, which will redirect you. And if you like it and use it for a while, we get a donation to the show. But it's just a really fast browser. It blocks all ads and trackers. So it's pretty useful.
The primary use I find for it is on my phone. I think.
Yeah.
Like I generally use Firefox as my main browser on desktop, and I use Brave as like my secondary. But on the phone, I've been using Brave now basically since it launched.
It just makes browsing, especially when you click on a news link. If you're clicking on a link to a news article, you won't actually realize until you've used Brave, but it takes so much longer to load all those scripts because it's loading all these ad trackers and just destroying your phone with all these cookies. So, yeah, on my Android, I'm just on fomo.show/Brave, and it's just so quick.
Yeah, I mean, I literally I've lost count of the amount of tabs I have open on my Brave Android phone, and I don't think I've ever actually closed any tabs on that since I got it like 2 years ago. But it's still going. Like it's still just as fast as ever. Like it is so well optimized, and you don't have to worry about any ads. It's pretty good at just keeping everything kind of locked down.
And they actually keep count, so you can actually see how many trackers you've blocked.
The other cool thing about Brave is that they've got the basic attention token rewards behind the scenes. So you can basically support sites by kind of turning this on and giving them rewards for your attention.
So, yeah, they'll replace some ads with basic attention token ads, but I've had this enabled on my phone. I just get pop-up notifications, and you can set how many notifications you want a day. And if you click on those notifications and visit that website, you actually get rewarded in cryptocurrency. So I've got all of about 30 cents US dollars
rolling in it.
Dude, just watch me. I can spend large, yeah. Yeah, either way.
Still more than rewards points for our credit cards. Yeah, so check out Brave. If you're on Android or iOS, and I guess if you're listening to this and you're not, I'd wonder what you're on. Then check it out. Brave, I think, is the best browser you can get for your phone at the moment.
fomo.show/Brave.
This week, we are doing a feature on the state of robotics.
So there are a bunch of different types of robots, and we're sure most listeners already have seen what these all look like. But there are so many different types of robots, and just looking at the categories of robot is just insane. Like, there are so many types of robots. So why don't we just go through what different types of robots are there?
Okay, so we're kind of sourcing from robotpark.com. So robotpark.com is kind of one of the sites that puts all of this into perspective, and they've got a really great categorization of all the different types of robots there are, and a lot of them you wouldn't even realize. But I guess one of the ones that most people probably know of is stationary robots. So stationary robots are robots that work without changing their position. So you see a lot of these on assembly lines, for example. So there's Cartesian robots, cylindrical robots, spherical robots, SCARA robots, robotic arms, and parallel robots. And they're some of the oldest types of robotic instruments that the industry has used. And like I said, you'll see them all the time assembling cars, machinery, food processing. Like those, most of the time, are the things that have really kind of pushed this mass scale manufacturing. for the world in the last kind of 50 years or so.
Yeah, so these are all stationary robots. So, I mean, the Cartesian robot, for example, they're an industrial robot whose 3 principal axes of control are linear. So they actually move in straight lines rather than bend at joints. And they're at right angles to each other. So it works across a X, Y, and Z axis. You've got cylindrical robots where the robot's right in the middle and it can sort of interact with stuff within a circular space of itself, which is kind of cool.
Then there's wheeled robots, and these are a bit newer. You've got basically like anything from single wheel or ball robots all the way to 4-wheeled, 6-wheeled, 8-wheeled, and even tracked robots. And these are, these are using wheel motion, which can be quite easily achieved. Their cost is generally pretty low, and it's generally needed when things just need an easy way to move. And the biggest example of this that we've probably seen in the last 15, 20 years are the robots that have been sent to Mars. You know, I mean, they are autonomous units. They got 6 wheels or 8 wheels or whatever. And, they land and then they do their thing. And they're quite autonomous. You don't really need to control them that much. We've had robotic cars, the 4-wheel. We've even got 2-wheel types of robots that can run around and do different things. Yeah, they're another robot that is kind of old. We know of them, and they're a bit of a known quantity.
So I guess we probably started off with stationary robots because they don't move at all. But, we're going to have, by the time my children are born, it's going to be, why did the robot cross the road, isn't it? Well, that's a great question. Why did it cross the road and whose decision was it? But I mean, following that, you've also got legged robots. So, as the name suggests, obviously they use legs. They can perform much better than wheeled robots can on uneven terrain, which is why you've seen them being developed. So they cost a lot more and the complexity of production is huge. But their advantages on uneven terrain make them almost indispensable. And Spot is actually a 4-legged robot, but you've got 1-legged robots, surprisingly, 2-legged, like bipedal robots, tripedal, quadrupedal, hexapod, and it goes on, types of robots. And even like many-legged robots, which is crazy.
Like centipede robots.
Ooh, creeps me out.
Ugh. Yeah. Then things get a little bit weird. So once you've gone past, these robots that we see a lot, things get a little bit strange. And so there's swimming robots out there, so robot fish and all sorts of things. There's flying robots, like drones, UAVs. The military use a lot of flying robots for their purposes. And then you've got rolling robotic balls as well. So if you've seen some of the newer Star Wars movies, they've got some of that in there. Swarm robots, which is a horrifying name. They operate collectively and cooperatively. And then you've got modular robots, and modular robots really intrigue me because essentially they've got all sorts of different configurations. They're very flexible.
Sometimes they can actually be self-reconfiguring. Self-reconfigurable modular robots are autonomous kinematic machines with variable morphology. They deliberately change their shape by rearranging the connectivity of their parts in order to adapt to new circumstances, perform new tasks, or recover from damage.
Yeah, so very, very versatile, flexible, horrifying. If they're coming after you, they can take all sorts of different forms. And then we really get into the weeds. So you start talking about micro robots and nano robots or nanobots.
Yeah, because nano robots, those are the types of things that you could use medically inside you. I mean, you could, of course, use stationary robots to do surgery and things like that. But, nano robots, or micro robots, like real small things for delicate tasks. But nano robots is where the millimeter scale is too large and bulky. And that's something that I'd love to learn more about, is how nanorobots and nanotechnology work. But then you got just the other odd stuff because we get a lot of our inspiration. You saw like Leonardo da Vinci's flying machines, influenced by wings of birds and things like that. But we've got soft, elastic robots, which are bio-inspired, inspired from squids or inchworms, both not just structurally, but also functionally.
And really sick people have actually even taken inspiration from snakes. Like they actually want to make snake robots, as if we didn't have enough snakes in the world already.
Oh, I was not afraid of snakes until I came here.
Next thing, they're going to put them on planes.
Oh, Yeah, that would be a horror film and a half. I tell you, like the
Yeah.
reboot, Snakes on a Plane 2.
like an 85-year-old Samuel L. Jackson with like
Some Japanese like passenger who gets on with like
just like thousands of robotic snakes.
nope, absolutely nope. Yeah, but and lastly, you got crawler robots and hybrid robots, which is just, I guess, some sort of mixture of the above, but
A miscellaneous category, isn't it? It's like doesn't fit into any of the other ones. So
well, let's look at the current applications. I mean, number one, industrial robots. I mean, their manufacturing is a massive use of it. If you've been to a car factory or had a look around, you'll see that more than half of the labor is actually machines. They can churn out factories. I remember I lived in a town in the UK where a lot of auto manufacturing used to be done, and this whole town, there used to be 10,000 people would work at this plant. Now it's just 7 engineers.
wow.
Or probably like 15, 20 engineers. Who knows? But the number is tiny.
And if you want to see something crazy, like look at the gigafactory that Tesla's building in China, and just look at the like extent of robotics that are going up in that factory. I mean, the whole thing is just one automated assembly line, really.
Crazy. It's just a big machine, that factory.
Yeah, it's nuts, but it can work round the clock. Doesn't need to stop, just needs to be serviced. And you don't have any of those pesky overtime fees, Joe. At least not yet, until it becomes self-aware.
Yeah.
Then we'll see what happens.
Go on
But
strike. Yeah.
yeah. But also the military, obviously, are massive purchasers of robotics, and have allowed them to do a lot of different things. I mean, you look at the recent conflicts in the Middle East that the US have waged war there. So much of what they've done has been reliant on robotic technology, particularly drones.
Have a look at the Russia's, I think it's called Okhotnik, which is known as the Hunter, which is an unmanned aerial vehicle. It looks a bit like a US B-2 bomber. It's a sort of a stealth-looking drone. And yeah, it looks just like the American B-2 stealth bomber. They've actually run tests with it where it will fly with an actual plane alongside it, and it will mimic actions so that they can fly almost in tandem. The drone can go ahead. And the thing is, if you're a long-range bomber or if you're a tactical aircraft, this UAV can have its sensors going, 20 kilometers in advance of you, and it's already preparing the plane behind for an attack. So by the time the real expensive aircraft comes in, you've already got the information you need, so they can work together. And it won't be long until they're flying in groups and swarms.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh no, it's a massive industry. It's probably only going to grow. Collaborative robots are another one, or cobots they call them. And there's also construction robots out there, and this area is growing very quickly because it's one of the places where robots really do make a lot of sense. You've got you're dealing with a lot of height, you're dealing with a lot of heavy material, you're dealing with a lot of danger, and really, like the act of constructing something, all it's already mapped out. Like you make your blueprints, then basically all the builders are doing are turning blueprints into reality. And so that means the plan is already there. And if you can teach robots how to read that plan, then so much of that can be automated.
Yeah, I've invested in a company called Robotics, or FBR, and it's a construction robot that's basically it's at the end of this long arm, but in wind or whatever weather, it will be able to put bricks in place against a 3D model and seal them together. So I think it was in a day, it can build an entire house frame, like the structure, using sort of like the breeze block type bricks.
Yeah, I remember you sharing this. Geez, man, it would have only been 2 years ago. You shared this and kind of showed the company. And how are they going now?
When I invested in them, they were a very early stage company. They're still approaching production. They've got a memorandum of understanding with Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia want to build a huge amount of more new property. So they've actually asked for a bunch of these robots for it. The idea is that they're going to offer a wall as a service. So instead of you having to pay for a bunch of bricklayers, you just build so what you would do as a construction company is you would build the base, you'd put the foundations in place. You'd call these guys in, they'd build the wall for you, and a day later you're ready to just put the insides in. So it slashes time on production. It can work in certain windy conditions and things like that. So it'll just put bricks down straight. It can't take a sick day, things like that. So it's pretty impressive. And their end goal, that's the Hadrian X, which is basically on the back of a truck. But in the future, they're very likely, from seeing the sketches of what they've been thinking of, you could have this at the end of a crane.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I'm just looking at some of these sketches now. This is crazy.
So, yeah, that's called FBR, which is an Australian company. And, yeah, interestingly, there's a number of different companies who are looking at robotic bricklayers. But this is one that I'm really keen on because they've got a number of patents in it. And, it's some pretty cool stuff. We've got agricultural robots as well. Ag robots, is apparently they're called. I've never heard them called, but yeah.
Agbot suits a bit better, I reckon.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we've covered a couple of them, haven't we? We've there was one that we looked at that could kind of get rid of all the weeds, like it kind of could identify them and just spray a little tiny bit of chemical on the weeds and not actually touch the vegetables, which I can tell you is huge. Like that is actually massive because a lot of the reason farmers have to spray chemicals on their produce is to keep a lot of the weeds away. And if you can start getting robots to spray and kill just the weeds or kill just the bugs or even remove them by hand, you could feasibly have every farmer go organic if they wanted to.
Because wasn't that when we looked at it like a spindly looking robot? It was like a massive spider that would just walk over the farm
really
and just
bizarre.
And just spray wherever it saw weeds.
Yep.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of applications. I mean, I can just remember standing out in the paddock, mate, years ago, like doing menial tasks and thinking you could so easily automate this. Like if robotics was at the point where it's kind of getting to now, like there's a bunch of applications for robots. There's all sorts of other ones, medical robots, kitchen automation, robots that clean up contaminated areas or like work in toxic areas. I think that's a massive one. Domestic robots, it will be, I think, a huge market.
Because we've got like robotic vacuums and stuff, don't we?
I mean, that's the precursor, isn't it? I mean, the robotic vacuum is really a precursor to a robot that can do most house chores. Can clean your house, can organize your house, can shift things around to maximize your storage, can look after your kids. I mean, mate, the possibilities for domestic robots are endless. And you can feasibly see a time where everyone has like a maid or a butler robot, that just kind of takes care of everything in the home, for better or worse.
There's so many opportunities in the mundane parts of life. You got so many repetitive and repeatable physical tasks. And it's really like what you were saying with when you were doing stuff on the farm, that's repetitive and repeatable.
Yeah, I think that's like the key for robots is that like you basically start with the simple and repeatable tasks. I mean, especially if the environment can be controlled. I mean, that's why we've seen robots have come so far in manufacturing because it's happening in a factory where everything is constructed with the intention of bringing robots into that environment. So it's almost like a sandbox where these robots have the optimal environments to just do their thing, and I think that's where the opportunity is. It's start with something that's kind of like it's very hard for things to go wrong. It's the same thing with building those walls, like you just make sure you're on a flat piece of land, you scope it out first and kind of make sure that everything's fine, and then you just get the thing to build the wall. That's simple and repeatable. And then you build out from that, I mean, I think that's why like driverless cars are taking so long because it's a completely different environment with a lot of extra factors and moving pieces.
Why don't we have a look at what the market is like right now for industrial robots? The 10 top companies who manufacture industrial robots, we haven't necessarily heard of all of them. I mean, why don't we start with ABB? which is Asia Brown Boveri. It's a Swedish multinational based out of Zurich, Switzerland. They're the leading supplier of industrial robots and robot software equipment and complete application solutions.
Yeah, and like you said, you've never really heard of them. I mean, and that's the same with Yaskawa. Like, they're a Japanese company. They manufacture servos, motion controllers, AC motor drives, switches, and industrial robots. And again, like the second largest company in the world for this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, next to KUKA, a German manufacturer headquartered in Bavaria, wonderful place. They make industrial robots and solutions for factory automation. Next comes Fanuc, a massive company. Fanuc Corporation is headquartered in Japan as well, and they provide automation products and services such as robotics and wireless systems.
Yeah, and there's a number of others. Most of these are in Japan or Switzerland. There's one from the States, one in Italy, but there are two familiar names in this list, and that's two names you probably don't really associate with automation and robotics at all, and that's Kawasaki and Epson.
But Epson, you look at you've probably bought an Epson ink printer at that one point in your life when you needed to print something, and you stuck it in your house, and when you print, and if you ever lifted that lid up and watched the arm move, that's probably where Epson's tech comes from in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And Kawasaki, like, I mean, they're known for motorbikes, and like I think they've taken a similar thing where they've probably used the equipment initially to build their motorbikes, and they've just kind of branched out. Now they do aerospace and defense and all sorts of other things.
Yeah, I never knew that they made ships, which is wild.
Yeah, there's just so much of this that goes on at such a high enterprise level that you don't even really see it unless you're a large company in the market for some of this stuff.
But Japan is really not messing around when it comes to the top 10 companies for it, because I guess probably for a few reasons. One, China's so close by, but secondly, Japan is just so on the robotic side of things. It's just wild. It's almost a stereotype.
Well, they've got to get to the point where they can build, Gundams and mechs, so which will be awesome. The reality is, I think mainly because of Japan, that the lion's share of the market is actually in the Asia Pacific region for robotics.
Yeah, well, I guess that's probably where most of the construction of creation of things happens. But yeah, Asia Pacific accounts for 63% of the industrial robotics market, followed by Europe at 15%. And then 9% for 9.3% for North America. The rest of the world is about 11%. But that's wild. Europe, or Asia, number one by far.
Yeah.
And then Europe and North America lagging far behind.
Yeah, so we've covered some of the big companies in robotics, but there are other companies that are kind of up and coming, and they're companies to watch. And some of these are familiar, some of these aren't as familiar. But we just wanted to pick a few companies that are probably going to start making waves in the robotics world in the not too distant future.
Let's start with Amazon. And now the robot report says that the reasons to watch are because Bloomberg reported in April 2018 that Amazon Lab 126, which is their R&D division for Amazon, they were working on a domestic robot. And there haven't been any updates since, and the project's apparently called Vesta. But the robot reportedly could be an Alexa on wheels.
Yeah, which is just, that's crazy. You think of what Alexa does already, and it makes sense for them to think about putting it on wheels. And they've reported that prototypes of the robots have computer vision software and can navigate through homes. And they've said that Amazon hope to begin seeding the robots in employees' homes by the end of 2018 and potentially with consumers as early as 2019.
Oh, the next company is Boston Dynamics. Now, we were talking about Spot, which is just going on sale, and then Atlas, which is the two-legged robot. But the reasons to watch them is they've got all these viral videos, which is cool. But seeing what they're doing, they've been around for about 30 years. But when it comes to having a Spot Mini, which is a very small robot inspecting construction sites in Japan, They've been doing so much research, so it's really something to watch for. If you subscribe to their YouTube channel, you'll be freaked out a few times a year for sure.
Also, Harvard's WIS Institute bio-inspired soft robotics labs, which is one of the institutes that Bill Gates is involved in as well. And Robot Report have said this is one of the big ones to watch. They've essentially created soft exosuits and soft robotic gloves to augment and restore human performance, while their microbotics labs, among other things, developed RoboBee, which is a flying microbot half the size of a paperclip and weighs less than 1/10 of a gram.
That's insane. And that's just a few of the things that they're doing. You've also got UB Tech. Building capable humanoid robots is pretty hard, and Boston Dynamics have set the bar. But UB Tech is a Chinese company, and they're known for toy robots, but they've raised nearly $1 billion with a $5 billion valuation, turning their Walker bipedal robot, which they introduced at CES in 2018, into a full-blown humanoid at CES 2019.
Yeah, so they said their Walker robot has the intelligence and capabilities to make a helpful impact in any home or business in the very near future. But so it's, you know, there's another competitor there to Boston Dynamics that are up and coming, and that's UB Tech out of China.
So what do you reckon about this whole idea of robotics as a service? Because that's what this construction company, Fastbit Robotics, are doing. Where are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's like, it makes a lot of sense. Like robots, at least for the foreseeable future, for that kind of stuff, are going to be very expensive, and it probably makes more sense just to rent robots, and also for these robotics companies to target use cases where they only need to be used for, you know, maybe one day, then someone else can rent them for one day. And I mean, the reality is, like, less than 15% of the warehouses in the US are currently automated, but that's going to increase dramatically. And they're actually predicting that the market in the US alone is going to top $22 billion in net worth by 2021, which is only 2 years away.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really wonder whether in the future we'll be able to go on the piratebay.org, download the plans to this beautiful house, buy some land, and rent a robot to just spend 3 days. You know, in 20 years from now, would it really be unfeasible for a robot to, you know, once you've got the basement or the foundations in order, to just get a robot to come on board and just build your dream house?
Yeah, I don't think it would be. And I mean, I don't, like, the other thing to say is too, like, open source and 3D printing, I think, have a massive part to play in this. So I can see a real convergence between the open source world, the 3D printing world, and off the grid living. So you could essentially see people in the future just saying, look, all I need to really live is an internet connection, a 3D printer, and raw materials. I can make my own robots. There's blueprints all over the internet now for all these different robots. They can perform whatever tasks I need. They can collect the material, bring it back to the 3D printers, and I can print more material, more robots, and, like, you know, print farmhands, get them to look after my gardens, get them to set up my hydroponics, get them to whatever the task is. I mean, you know, I can fully see a future where people are able to essentially just live off a small plot of land and a 3D printer.
Well, you made the great point there on raw materials. I mean, the one thing that's not going to change is the things that we've got to make things out of. Wow.
Yeah, definitely.
And then, surgery is already being, you know, robotics is already taking part in that. Where do you reckon it comes in other areas?
Oh, look, I think a really kind of left field one, but just one I thought of was professional sports. So, like, training, you know, I mean, a lot of sports, I'm thinking of, like, cricket is something I really love. Watching. You know, you have, like, ball machines at the moment, which are kind of robots. Like,
So that simulates somebody bowling a cricket ball
essentially.
Team.
It's not great. Like, it can simulate it to a certain extent, but it's no real replacement for having someone actually bowl to you. But you know, as robots increase in their complexity, and even some of this Boston Dynamics stuff, you know, you could potentially see a robot running up and bowling and actually being as good as a human being. And, you know, you basically, the advantage is, you know, you can say,
sorry, keep going.
Yeah, well, you just use AI to analyze what you're not doing that well, right?
Yeah.
So if you've gotten out, you know, in several innings in certain ways, You tell the AI, okay, I want you to program the robot to just concentrate on that thing I'm getting out to. And I want it to, for the next hour, to bowl that particular way to me over and over and over and over and over again until I get it.
Wow.
And like, you can't get a human to do that. I mean, they can't do it exactly, but you can get a robot to do something that's repeatable and simple every single time. So, and that's across all kinds of sports, you know, you can.
True.
Yeah.
I mean, let's say you get humanoid, bipedal robots. We'd have to fast forward 30 years here, probably at least. But, if you take every piece of footage of the top football player that you're going to play against next match, after this match, you say, okay, we've got a football match coming up next month and Ronaldinho is going to be up against you. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this robot into Ronaldinho mode, and the robot is going to take every single match that Ronaldinho has ever played and play against you.
Yeah.
Or same with boxing. Imagine fighting, and it says that this is going to be Mike Tyson that you're up against, and we've taken every Mike Tyson match. That would be...
I think it'll be a huge industry.
Wouldn't want to be the person on the receiving end of that, but yeah.
No.
You could definitely train it. That's crazy.
Yeah. And look, and like that goes for service workers too. I mean, you think of all the cleaners and the janitors and like this huge industry that's like hotel industry is a perfect example of like this huge service industry that's kind of sprung up around hospitality, where what's happening is incredibly repeatable, incredibly simple. Like hotels are a perfect example. You're going into a room that's basically the same. You're doing basically the same thing every time.
You just have to react to what's in there.
Exactly. You know what needs to go essentially to get it back to the state that it was at the beginning.
This is going to have such a bad impact on human employment though, because people who do stuff like cleaning are critical because, when someone's vomited on a wall and has landed on a bit of the carpet, cleaners are so essential for getting rid of that. Yeah.
I mean, but like in saying that, I think it always comes down to cost. I mean, at the moment, we automate certain areas where the cost makes sense. So, like, well, if the robots are cheaper in a manufacturing sense because it works at scale, then there's not as many humans. But for most industries, like, it's not cheaper at the moment. So there's, there's not that many robots. And some companies may respond to this and say, well, we got to make laws like to protect jobs, but like for me, there's so much of a parallel between what happened in the Industrial Revolution and 200 years ago and today. What's happening with automation? I mean, the reality is like the Industrial Revolution was really when we first started building robots. Now they're not as intelligent today, but like robots at their core are essentially tools that can perform a repeatable task in a consistent manner, right? Like they respond to their programming, and like so you look at the cotton looms and the spinning jerrys and all that kind of stuff that got done, like the steam engines, blah blah blah, in the Industrial Revolution, and people were saying, oh, they're gonna replace our jobs, like humans are gonna be out of jobs, but like it took away so much of the mundane jobs and created these like entirely new industries based on the fact that it was kind of getting people out of that and giving them time to focus on other things and opening up new possibilities. So yeah, like as much as it is scary from a current employment sense, it's also so fascinating from a possibilities sense.
So as long as humans are cheaper to carry out a specific task, we won't have robots. Now, if you look at this in a very capitalistic sense, people who have money to pay for an action to be delivered, they just want the cheapest possible cost for the action to be delivered, whether that's using software or hardware or people. Whatever's cheapest for them and makes the most profit will work. What potential outcomes can you see legally of this happening?
Yeah, I mean, I can see countries trying to fight a lot of this by making laws, prohibit certain jobs being automated or have companies protect jobs.
Like the taxi, like sort of like having the taxi rights groups.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, like you just can't fight the market. Like, as particularly in an increasingly global world, countries that do that make laws to kind of fight automation are quickly going to fall behind and kind of lose their competitive advantage against other countries and other companies that embrace it. And the wealth is going to follow those countries that embrace it because they're going to produce more, they're going to have more possibilities. And so like it's going to be, like I alluded to before, like similar to the Industrial Revolution where the first movers will get the advantage. And if you want to get the benefits, you just need to rip the Band-Aid off. And you just need to let the market take care of it because, yes, it will mean some retraining. It will probably mean some people do go out of jobs. But I think just like the Industrial Revolution, it will be a net positive in the long run. And it has to happen. Like you can't fight it forever.
But yeah, robotics are going to be super awesome. Nothing to worry about if you do anything like driving a taxi or cleaning rooms or building things from by hand or coming up with ideas. Don't worry, a robot will never take your job. So subscribe to the FOMO Show to find out other ways to stay in employment.
Do you know someone who might enjoy this? Please feel free to share this with them. You can jump on our Telegram at FOMO.show/Telegram.
You can find us at FOMO.show.
And on YouTube at FOMO.show/YouTube.
You can follow us on Twitter at _FOMO_show.
If you like our show, please feel free to subscribe in your podcast app of choice or via our YouTube channel.
That's it for us here at the FOMO Show. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day and joining us.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Joe.
And as always, remember,
no FOMO. No FOMO.
No freaking FOMO.
Don't be afraid. Seriously, it's just robots. What did you have to fear? Calm down. Calm down, citizen. You're under arrest.
Do not resist. You have breached section 453, subsection A, subsection G, subsection II of the criminal code. We live.
Yeah. Yeah, boy. We major.
Bitcoins below $8,000, mate. It's on sale.
Right.
It's a great time to be alive.
Bloody good time to be alive. Why are you talking about plants and leaves?
No reason, Joe.
So, I mean, we're going to have to learn from the other countries that have this. I mean, in different states, you've got in America, in some of the states there, they use the tax money they collect to invest in mental health. In Canada, they've got law saying that plants need to be kept out of public view. What else is there?
Yeah, in like some US states, you're required to provide certain information kind of at the storefront or on the packaging.
Oh, okay.
So I've heard that like in Colorado, for example, it may have actually been Eric Voorhees on the Bitcoin on What Bitcoin Did talking about this. He said that you kind of go into the distillery. This dispensary, and you go into the dispensary and they'll kind of ask you, what kind of health issues do you have, if any, or maybe, and they'll kind of say, okay, well, this one is good for this one's good for this, because there's all sorts of different benefits to different types of cannabis plants and different things taken. Like there's different. What's the actual content that does all the action in your head? THC, like there's different THC content. It's kind of like if like the alcohol content in different drinks. But yeah, like I've heard that, the quality over there is significantly improved now because it's all kind of come out and it's sold at a retail level. But interestingly enough, like in the States anyway, where it's been legalized, so as opposed to decriminalized, the grey market's still around because it's taxed really heavily, like particularly in California, I think. Like that's one of the biggest issues there. Like people are they're not really allowed to just grow their own plants in the backyard, but it makes more economic sense for a lot of them to still do that.
That's where, yeah. I mean, that's where it comes down to, like, it's like Netflix versus the Pirate Bay. If they need to make it competitive with the black market.
Yeah, and that's where this whole decriminalization versus legalization thing comes in. Like some states are decriminalizing it over there, which is basically just saying it's okay. Like, we're not going to prosecute you, but we're also not going to make any laws about it. Whereas like legalization is more like, okay, here's this bill, here's how we're going to regulate it, here's how we're going to tax it. And I think like as fans of the free market, like, we should probably be preferring decriminalizing it, because then that kind of just lets, like, essentially then you can just, it can be engaged in peer-to-peer, it can be sold at shops. There's a lot less restrictions on it as opposed to legalization, which kind of creates a framework around it, and then you start having to deal with licenses and taxes and all sorts of things like that. So, yeah. Anyway.
So, yes.
So next bit of news. Oh, did you want to?
No, nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Think very carefully.
Let me just get to
it.
It's all we've heard since we were young children, and people are naturally terrified. I mean, you look at like what's it called? It's called eco anxiety. Like, children are very, very, like, there are children who are turning up to psychiatrists who are genuinely afraid of the future. And the important thing is we need to leave these people a better world, but it is really important that we don't make it sort of a zero sum, the planet's going to die unless you do what I want. That's what I find is really important. And because it is important to note that, the news outlets that we all listen to don't necessarily all share the news of all of the scientists who are there.
When you get emotions in these kind of things, that's what happens, and then there's agendas, and you'd have to be fooling yourself to think that there aren't agendas on both sides of this argument. And I guess for us on the ground, it's about saying, well, I think everyone can agree that
we want to make the world a better place.
Yeah. So let's focus on that.
Absolutely. So Boston Dynamics. It's hard to put an apostrophe on a word.
This week we are doing a feature on the state of robotics.
Well, why don't you kick us off, mate?
So,
not so fast.
Oh, you got me. I was not ready. Yeah, you're right. I'm going to pour some more whiskey.
Sorry, let me just take a drink.
How good is whiskey? Seriously.
It's a pretty good time.
Oh, that whiskey I got from the Whiskey Club is just fantastic.
Yeah?
It's just so nice.
Whoa.
I've just poured something else then, but that's what I was having before. It's like an American single malt.
Oh, yeah. Was that the
Westwood? Yeah, it's just it's like a small batch one, and yeah, mate, like it's one of the nicest ones I've ever had.
Wow.
It's really good.
Man, when all the boys are a bit older and we all have our own places and stuff, I reckon, I'm certainly going to get onto brewing my own alcohol. And obviously not selling it to other people because that's illegal, but I mean, just donating to friends.
I mean, if some Bitcoin happens to end up in your account,
look, that's not my fault.
That's not your fault.
I coerced him to use this.
That's right. Yeah, I wonder if we replace the government with robots, if they'd make things a lot more efficient.
Oh, dude, 100%. Hold on, maybe that should be the number one reason, if we just replace our government. Because, we vote for a robot and we just ask the robot to do what we want, and the robot's like, my mandate is for these people. My election promises must be kept.
Yes.
Oh, my days. Freaking Google Chrome, I want to kill you.
You gotta get on this Firefox train, mate.
Fudge.
Like at the end of the day, we do have programming that we respond to. And we do have, the DNAs, they've mapped DNA chains now, and there's certain things that are, like it or not, pre-programmed in that DNA. But at the same time, and you're really kind of getting into the metaphysical and the philosophical about, how you define self and do you have a soul and things like that? Because in a way, that's what a lot of this argument comes down to. You know, like if we agree that humans have like a soul, like they have a tangible self, you know, that's more than just a collection of flesh and bone. You know, is that what makes us human? Is that what gives us, you know, natural rights? Or will there be a time where robots maybe should be entitled to natural rights?
Look, I think we need to cut you off right now and end the show because yikes.
I mean, maybe we should just make that whole section like an outtake.
So much.